As President Trump continues to escalate his unprecedented use of military across U.S. cities, he's now turning his attention to Portland, Oregon. In a social media post earlier today, Trump said that he was directing Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to, quote, provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland and any of our ICE facilities under siege. Trump added that he authorized the use of full force if necessary. Interestingly, we learned that Pentagon officials were surprised by Trump's initial post and were not aware of any new orders to send troops into Portland. Meanwhile, local officials are already pushing back. Democratic Governor Tina Kotek said this moments ago.
President Trump's inconceivable insistence that we need federal troops in Portland does not address the real concerns in our communities. We do not need or want federal troops in Oregon stoking fear, creating conflict, and frankly escalating a situation that is under control.
Joining us now to discuss this, Susan Del Percio, Republican strategist and MSNBC political analyst, and former Democratic Congressman Max Rose of New York. Max, your response to Trump ordering United States troops to be sent into Portland in a tweet with no warning or any kind of liaising with the DOD.
I've tried to play it straight when it came to the National Guard stuff, that there's a role for the National Guard in coordination with governors when it comes to local matters to include supporting police. That's not what he's doing here. He's talking about active duty service members, deploying them in contradiction to governor's wishes domestically. I don't understand how that's a legal order. And that brings us to the precipice of something that is way beyond the pale of reason. All of this amidst continued conversations about quote unquote lethality. We have the Secretary of Defense calling in 800 generals into one location. By the way, not a smart idea to put all of our nation's greatest national security minds
their senior
in one
NCOs
room.
too,
and their senior NCOs, who are the ones that are really the backbone of the United States military. But they're constantly talking about lethality, which is code for we kill our enemies. Yeah. Fine, you want to be
warrior ethos.
The warrior ethos. This from a Secretary of Defense who couldn't even make Lieutenant Colonel in the National Guard or pass Army Ranger School. But let's not even go onto personal attacks. Lethality, we kill our enemies, we do this and that. Fine, then why are you talking about Portland, Oregon? Yeah. Why are you deporting the family members of veterans? Why are we dedicating the time of active duty service members to scrubbing social media announcements from 5 years ago about Black History Month? Why does it look like they're waging war on the transgender community and not on foreign terrorists? The extent of their lethality goes so far as the strength of the Secretary of Defense's hair gel and nothing else. This is pitiful, it's sad, and it only hurts our national security.
Susan, I wanted to ask you, though, what do they think they're getting out of this PR exercise from it's going to be at least, 600 to 800 general officers plus senior NCOs. So it's going to be hugely expensive to transport all of these individuals from their command posts back to D.C. And also the budget could, if we have a shutdown, they could all potentially be stuck at Quantico and be stuck in Virginia. Top commanders, why? And this is all for Pete Hegseth to give a speech that he could do over Zoom about lethality and warrior ethos, and they're now the Department of War. What do they think they're getting out of this politically? Or is it just a show of machismo?
Well, it is a show of machismo, and there's no doubt about that. But I think they are looking for the PR value to portray strength. Now, I'm not buying into it, but I understand it, where they can show they have the soldiers around them and it makes them look strong. It's a very funny thing. Donald Trump talks about peace overseas all the time, all the wars, which he hasn't really ended, but whatever. He loves talking about peace overseas. But on his own country, he's willing to send people in with lethal force on its own citizens. And that's the way he shows his strength. That's how he wants to look in command of his armies, because frankly, he's afraid to do it overseas and can get away with some kind of PR move and have that visual.
Let me ask you about something you said earlier, which is the legality of all of this, right? And I'm interested in your thoughts from being, a veteran, the intersectionality of a legal order versus the way Donald Trump is approaching domestic terrorism in this country, right? Because he is now called Antifa domestic terrorist organization. We don't have a domestic terrorist organization list the same way that we have a foreign designation for terrorist organizations that we can go after and that we can kind of target militarily. But when you create a similar domestic terrorism list, I'm curious from just a legal point of view, the legal challenges that poses when you call something Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. If you're a soldier and you're being deployed, as you said, these orders question the legality of it. What do the soldiers do? How are they supposed to follow these orders? It's not sufficient just to say, I'm going to follow an order if the legality of it is not tested.
Well, there's no such thing as a domestic terrorism list.
Right.
And it also, even if there was, it wouldn't garner the right of service members to engage in aggressive violence towards their own citizens. I mean, we've had this conversation several times at this table, but the fact that the explicit purpose of the United States military is to deter and counter our adversaries overseas. But you made a fantastic point just now that they don't only talk about lethality, they also talk about this notion that they're going to be the ones that stop wars, prevent wars. But let's not just look at these bumper stickers. Let's look at what they're doing. They're engaging in continued extrajudicial killings in Latin America. No evidence that they're illegal. No evidence that they were ever approved by any lawyer. They want to go back to Bagram.
Yes.
They want to go back to Afghanistan. And under their watch, the war in Ukraine is not only getting worse, Russia is not only advancing, but we are seeing excursions into Poland. Yep. This is the opposite of peace through strength. They call it now the Department of War. It's looking like the Department of Forever War under their watch.